Hey there. So I recently did a little poll on what my subscribers would like to see me cover, and it seems like a lot of my subscribers want me to cover this book some more. So the Advancing Guitarist by Mick Goodrick. I've covered it before, and I think most of you are familiar with this book. It's one of the holy grails of jazz guitar improvisational technique books or whatever. So my favorite chapter, I guess it's not a chapter, it's not divided into chapters, but my favorite section of this book is what he calls modes, chord scales 2. So he uses a method that I think he came up with, I haven't seen it anywhere else, to play a motif or an idea through a tune. And I've talked about this before, but I think it's time that I cover it some more in detail. So again, before I do that, I just want to say that obviously I'm not covering everything in this book. It's impossible to cover everything, and I don't even want to, because the idea is to inspire you and show you how I use different books to practice stuff. So enough talking. I'm just going to show you this idea, and then I'll explain it and explain how you can develop that idea. So this is There Will Never Be Another You, and this is the thing that I'm going to talk about. So I made a little loop here. So I think you can hear what's going on, right? I'm playing a motif or a musical idea, and I'm moving it through the changes. So how am I doing this? Well, there are 4 different ways that you can do this. So first of all, you need to do 2 things. You need to decide on a motif, a musical idea, and then you need to come up with a mode or a scale for each chord. So a mode that can be derived from a major or a melodic minor mode. So if you don't know your major modes, like the modes from the major scale or the melodic minor scales, then you're a little bit not going to be able to do this exercise. But if you do know your modes, melodic minor modes and the regular modes, you can do this. So try to avoid diminished chords, because it's a little bit trickier there. I might cover that in a different lesson. So you pick a tune. In this case, There Will Never Be Another You. I'm only doing the first half for time's sake, and then you come up with a mode for each chord, or you decide on a mode or a scale. Right? Many chords, there are many options for certain chords, but you just pick one, right? And then you look at this motif. So I took the very first phrase from the actual tune, right? Or the first notes of that phrase. And then you look at it. There are many different ways that you can analyze the intervals. You could think of it as a whole step, or a step, 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 and a third. Right? Whole step, half step, whole step, minor third. But here we're going to look at it in how the notes relate to the root of the chord. So the first chord is E flat major 7. So let's pick the most obvious mode, Ionian, or just regular major. this melody starts on the 5th degree of that chord or that scale, and then the 6th, 7th, 1, 2, 3, and 5. 5, 6. So those are the degrees of that scale. So that's the only thing we need to be concerned with for this exercise. Now, the next chord is D minor 7 flat 5. So the scale I pick for that is the Locrian natural 2 scale. Then I pick the G altered for the G, C Dorian, B flat Dorian, E flat mixo or Lydian flat 7, E flat major, A flat major, and then D flat Lydian flat 7, and we're back, E flat major, and then F Lydian flat 7, F Dorian, and then B flat Lydian flat 7. So I think I picked Lydian flat 7 for all the dominants except the G, which is it's leading towards a minor chord, so I picked the altered for that. Let me just think about that A flat major. Did I pick Lydian or... Yeah, I think it's A flat major there. You could pick Lydian too, right? So got a little bit confused, sorry. Now, if I play 5, 6, 7, root 2, 3, 5. In all those scales, the next chord is the 5th of D flat, or sorry, this 5th of D, the flat 5th. And then G, the flat 5, because the altered scale has a flat 5. And so on. That's what I did before, right? So that's the first idea. So I said there was 4. Right? So next, that's what he calls parallel. Parallel. So I'm playing the motif and how the intervals relate to the actual scale. Now we can do what he actually, the first example he uses is derivative. So that means I have to find the scale that mode is derived from. So E flat major is derived from E flat major, so there's no difference there. But the next chord, D minor 7 flat 5, Locrian natural 2 is derived from, that's right, F melodic minor. G altered is derived from A flat melodic minor. C Dorian is derived from B flat major, and so on. So if I do that, it's going to be different. Well, the first is going to be the same, right? The next chord, now I'm going to think of this as an F melodic minor, and then you get this instead. And then I think of the G7 as an A flat melodic minor. So I'll play the next example. Okay, so I think I am confusing you. Yeah, so the A flat scale should be Lydian. So I'm thinking of the A flat as a Lydian scale, which means the derived scale would be E flat major. Same thing as A flat Lydian. So again, I have this written out as PDF on my Patreon page. One more example. it's a little bit more out there. The third example. Oh yeah, let me see what it's called. I actually had to think about this. Lydian Chromatic. What the hell is this? Well, I think some of you are aware of this book, Lydian Chromatic Concepts or something. I can't think of the exact title, it escapes me right now, but it's by George Russell. I always get his name confused too, because I confuse him with the philosopher. George Russell, I'm pretty sure his name is. Wrote this book in the, I don't know, 60s, I guess, called Lydian Chromatic Concepts or something like that. Legendary book, and I'm not an expert. There are a lot of experts out there who actually studied with him. I don't understand this book, so I'm not going to talk about it too much, and I don't quote me on this because I might be wrong, but from what I understand, I remember looking at this book years ago. His idea or his thesis in this book is that if we take a key like C major, the white keys on a piano, we think of the C as the root of that key or that mode, but that's actually wrong, according to him. This is how I understand it. The root is actually the F, because you can stack fifths from the F. So because of the overtone series, and I don't want to get into it, but just that's the idea that the Lydian scale is the actual the parent scale, or whatever you want to call it, the root of that key. So okay, stack fourths from F. That was a C major scale, right? Or the white keys on a piano, but as fifths. So anyway, if we do the exact same thing, but we think of each chord as some kind of Lydian scale. So the E flat was going to be Lydian, so it's also going to be the same. Now D minor 7 flat 5, the Lydian scale, the Lydian parent scale of that chord would be A flat Lydian sharp 5, or A flat Lydian augmented. So if I do the same thing here, it will sound like this. Just this is a little bit trickier, so bear with me here. Okay, so the Lydian scale, that is either could be a regular Lydian, or for the melodic minor modes you have to find the Lydian sharp 5, which is the third degree of that mode. So this is a little bit more advanced. Some of you might not get this, but I'm talking to those of you who know your modes and would normally use a book like this, right? So sorry if this is a little bit too confusing, but if you get the book, it's all laid out pretty or very actually good, so that you get a good overview of this idea. So that was my favorite chapter in this book, and there's one more. I said it was 4, but I'll leave that for you to find out for yourself when you get the book. There are obviously other ways you could do this. You could move the motif in one direction, going up or down, or you could... there are many ways that you can develop this concept. So this is, again, why are we doing this? So if you think about it, it's... I think it's... How should I say this? The way you practice is gonna affect how you play. So imagine that all you're doing is practicing scales. Well, chances are that when you play, it's going to sound like you're just playing scales. So if you like me, want to be a player who has something more interesting to offer than just scales and arpeggios, not to so don't get me wrong here, it's very important to practice your scales and arpeggios, but you also need to do this kind of stuff so that your soloing is a little bit more interesting. When you listen to jazz, when I listen to jazz players, that's my favorite thing is when they play an idea or a motif and then they seem to be able to just go somewhere unexpected with that idea. And anybody can hear that. You don't have to be somebody who went through 4 years of jazz college to be able to hear that. You know, anybody can hear a musical idea and hear how it's kind of moving. And it's important to think about how people listen to music. So how do you think your audience is perceiving what you're doing? So and think of players like Jim Hall. They seem to be able to do it. I think of players like Jim Hall, Wayne Shorter, and when I think of this kind of playing. And also you can hear the chords, right? So it's a way of outlining the harmony without playing arpeggios, right? You can hear the chords. So obviously you don't want to do this obvious when you're actually playing. This is practicing so that we open our ears to where a musical idea can go and how it can. It doesn't have to be this dogmatic, right? So this is just for practicing sake. Then some other questions that I've had. So a lot of people ask me what I'm playing. So I'm playing this Guild T50 Slim, right? And I actually have the amp I'm using in this apartment is it's just an acoustic guitar amp. It's a Tanglewood, so it's nothing special. I really like how it sounds, but obviously I can't use distortion and stuff with this amp. Some people also ask me about this painting here, this Kandinsky painting. When am I gonna put it up on the wall? But the thing is, I got this painting and then I realized I'm moving out of this place pretty soon, so you have to live with it feels kind of redundant to go through the trouble of hanging up on the wall since I'm moving. So I'm just using it to cover all the wires and stuff. You have to live with that, okay? And yeah, it's not a real Kandinsky. And also, some people asked me about the secret of the universe came up in the previous lesson, and yeah, I don't know what the secret to the universe is, but I'm pretty sure it has something to do with George Benson, or maybe Django Reinhardt, or those two, a combination of those two. Somewhere there lies the secret of the universe, I think. So I'll leave you with those thoughts, and you gave you something to think about there. Yeah, I shall see you next time.